I'd like to call the Monday, February 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Goldsboro Planning Commission to order at this time. And our first item on the agenda for this evening will be approval of minutes from the January 25th, 2021 meeting. If I could have a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Waters makes a motion that we approve the minutes as presented by staff. That's seconded by Mr. Reed. And all in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries. At this time, we will suspend our duties as the Planning Commission in order to address item 2 and item 3 on the agenda as the Board of Adjustment. So for those two items, we will be acting in the capacity of the Board of Adjustment. Those items will be presented to us by our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. Kenny Talton. Upon the conclusion of those Board of Adjustment items 2 and 3 on the agenda, then we will resume our duties as the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good evening to the board. Thank you so much for everybody attending tonight. As we have spoken to each of you individually, it is so important, these meetings, whether you are serving as a Board of Adjustment or as a Planning Commission. A lot of times when it comes to the variances, Ms. Roja, are an exemption to a rule or regulation that is allowed according to state statutes if you meet certain requirements for doing so. And so when it comes to a variance, and there are some other situations which are similar to variances, you have to have a 4/5 rule to actually approve of granting of such a variance. If you don't have a 4/5 rule, if you do not complete the motion in concluding with a 4/5 vote, then the variance does not carry, it does not pass. So with our rule of 7, we have to have no less than 6 in the affirmative to make that vote, whether it's 6 individuals and having an absent member, an excused absent, that will mean that 6 would have to vote in the affirmative. If you have 7, then you would have to have a minimum of 6 to vote in the affirmative to approve of that variance. So again, we just thank you for attending tonight, especially because we have variances. When it comes to the Planning Commission and a site plan, of course, it's a majority of our members, which we have 7 members, so as long as we have 4 to attend, then we can always make a recommendation to that effect. Let's see, just note our attorney, Ron Lawrence, do we know where Mr. Lawrence, is he not going to be here tonight, do we know? Okay. Okay, I'm unaware as well. But we'll proceed forward. So the first item of business is the Board of Adjustment public hearing for Worrell and Lambert properties, which are located on Highway 70 West at 1717, 1719, and 1803 West Grantham Street. Direct your attention to our map here. So the subject properties are located on the north side of West US 70 Highway between Springwood Drive and Westwood Drive. They are located in an R16 and residential and R16 residential manufactured non-conforming zoning district. The applicant is requesting a variance of the city's general use district dimensional table standards to include setbacks, lot widths, and areas. In addition, the applicant is requesting a variance of the city's requirement that requires lots to have frontage along an improved public street of no less than 50 feet in width. If approved, the applicant proposes to subdivide the property into 4 individual lots for the purposes of settling a family estate. The applicant has submitted a proposed preliminary subdivision plat which cannot be approved without the specified variances approved by the Goldsboro Board of Adjustment. So as you see here, you see Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3, and Lot 4, all separated by the broad red strokes, lines. So the properties consist of the following proposed tracts or lots and the requested variance for each lot. So we'll talk about Lot 1 first. Let's see. The variance is requested for a front setback from 40 to 6.42. See if my pointer's working tonight, which is right here. Side setback from 16 to 5.67 feet, and a lot frontage or width from 100 to 80.85. If you'll flip the page to Lot 2, the applicant is requesting a variance of the front setback from 40 feet to 6.64 feet. Side setback from 16 to 10.18 feet, and a lot frontage or width from 100 feet to 95 feet. And for Lot 3, which is this lot right here, the applicant is asking for a variance that lots have frontage along an improved public street of at least 50 feet. At this point, the applicant is requesting a variance of that lot frontage off of 70 with a 30-foot wide easement that will proceed off of 70 and take a 90 to the south to the lot, which is right here. These subject properties, and with regards to Lot 4, there is no variance requested from Lot 4. But the subject properties we just discussed, all of them are not located within the City of Goldsboro city limits, but they are located within our extraterritorial jurisdiction. The subject properties existed prior to the adoption of our city ordinances. City water and sewer are not available to serve the properties. Properties are not located within a special flood hazard area. Setbacks for the residential R16 district are as follows. As you see there, front, rear, side, corner, and minimum lot area. So currently, lots 1, 2, and 4 are occupied by single-family dwellings. Originally, Lot 3 was one of 2 existing non-conforming lots previously occupied by 3 manufactured homes. The manufactured homes have been removed, and the applicant is proposing a new lot accessed by a proposed 30-foot wide ingress, egress, and regress easement from US 70 West for single-family residential development. The city has been in contact with NCDOT regarding this proposed access easement off of Highway 70, of which they have no issues with the applicant's request. Turning the page to page 3, Ms. Rowe, I will go through these variances as stipulated by the North Carolina General Statutes. I'll probably not read this on our second one, just for the sake of brevity of time.
Okay.
Let's see. Colonel? So, when unnecessary hardships would result from carrying out the strict letter of a zoning ordinance, the Board of Adjustment will vary any of the provisions of the ordinance upon a showing of all of the following. That number 1, unnecessary hardship will result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. Number 2, that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be the basis for granting a variance. Number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. Findings of facts. The City of Goldsboro makes the following facts as it relates to the variance request for Section 5.4 of the UDO. So for Lot 1, our findings are that unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. Our finding was that the single-family dwelling was built prior to the adoption of the city's Unified Development Code. And that's why these setbacks do not concur with our current requirements. Number two, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Page 4. The finding was the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. Number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the owner. Our finding was that the hardship does not result from actions taken by the owner. And number 4, the finding is that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. Number 2, 1719 West Grantham Street is identical to the same findings, with the exception of the front setbacks, side setbacks, and lot frontage are a little bit different, from 40 to 6.64, from side setbacks 16 feet to 10.18 feet, and the lot frontage or width from 100 feet to 95 feet. Again, the rest is identical. Coming over to page 5, lot 3. So again, we've addressed 1. As you can see, the house is being close to the front property line here. 2, again, here. And I'm going to show you the previous plat that was recorded, but this is the proposed plat. And now we're going to address this lot here, which is seeking a variance of the required road frontage of 50 feet with use of an easement. So lot 3, again, lots shall have a frontage along an improved public street of at least 50 feet. This lot, again, was, like we said in our agenda memo, it was one of 2, and so they've combined it into 1 now, trying to make it somewhat more conforming than what it was. Our finding was that once again, that the subject property existed prior to the adoption of the city's development code. Number 2, that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. Number 3, the hardship does not result from actions taken by the property owner. And number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secure and substantial justice is achieved. So moving on to page 6, based on the above followings, the City of Goldsboro's Board of Adjustment concludes the following. So at this point in time, Chairman, we would need the board to conclude whether to grant the variance for lots 1, 2, and 3. And unfortunately, you're supposed to take an individual vote upon each lot, and it must satisfy all 4 of those requirements in order for the variance to pass. So with that being said, I'll turn it back over to you at this point in time, unless there's any questions of the Board of Adjustment.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
This particular property, is it, in my mind, is it this property, but right near where Arnold Wilbert and the alteration shop and Dave Quick's old office is? Or am I mistaken?
It's further down on 70 West. It's, I don't know where you remember old Coggles Pond?
I do.
It's right before you get to Coggles Pond on the right.
Well, that was going to be my question, because on the map that was provided, it shows it's across from Brentwood Drive, which I know where that's at. But if you GPS one of those addresses, it shows up near Arnold Wilbert. So I just want to make sure
I actually knew the guy. I know the people that own that.
Okay.
And I was wondering, why do they even have to ask that? Is it because they're dividing the lots up individually? Is that why?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Because I know 2 of the brick houses on the front are already, got the road frontage and all that. I'm just not sure about that 3rd lot that we keep talking about. I understand the one where the mobile homes were.
Right.
It's off the road and you needed an ingress, egress.
That's
I'm
right.
not sure about the 4th, exactly the 4th one, or whichever we're considering the 4th.
Yes, sir, and the 4th one wouldn't apply in this case
Does
because
not
it
apply.
meets all of our zoning requirements.
Okay.
But because there's a recombination involved, and because our zoning requirements are not met for the other 3,
Okay.
that's why we have to come before the board and
I
ask for that
understand that.
variance. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
this is not ETJ, that's actually city property that far down.
It's in the jurisdiction, but
It's in the ETJ, not the city limits, that's correct.
That's right.
Okay.
And Chairman, if you'll bear with me, I know that if you're traveling west on 70, you come up on Claridge Nursery Road and 70 where you see the McDonald's on your right. As you pass through that intersection, to your right before you get to this property, right here is property owned by CP&L. And they own a base station here, right after you pass McDonald's in that
Right.
big, large open field there. And as you're going upward on 70 West, that's where you'll see this property directly
Right.
on your
And I'm
right.
familiar with the property based on it being across from Brentwood. It's just that my GPS
Different.
said different. So I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I was 100% clear on what we
Yeah.
were referring to.
Sure thing. And I apologize, I wish maybe there's some new technology that we can get these maps a little larger so you can see
Yeah.
it a little more clearly.
And lot 3, since that's the one that will not have any direct road frontage,
Yes,
there,
sir.
that one is proposed for residential development
Yes, sir.
with easement across what I'm assuming to be one of the other 3 lots,
That is correct.
and that's already shown and dedicated, et cetera, to,
It is being proposed.
okay, well, yeah,
Yes, sir.
proposed along with the plan.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't really make out on the color map, but then I did
Sure
see it
thing.
once I looked at what's actually on the screen there.
And if you'll see, here, you can see, used to, they would access this lot 3 off of this private road here, around, all the way up this way, which this was not what they needed to do since he was considering selling the property. So now that the two families have sought the professional service of a surveyor to do it properly,
Right.
and to plat it out so that easements will be shown to whoever the interested buyers would be, so they know where their property begins, ends, and know that they have the right to cross at these dedicated easements so that they can get to their property without any questions being asked.
And I'd be inclined to agree with staff's assessment that the hardship would certainly not be theirs, because it's, not their fault also that it falls under city's jurisdiction because of the ETJ. I think it's a good request to make use of the property.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. And a lot of times, as you get closer to the city core, we're the regulations are in place for a reason, and most of those, most of the time, it's rare that you'll see something like this through the city, but most of the time, when you see something like this particular situation, it is going to be in our ETJ, those
But you
areas
know-
that have not been developed.
Years past, where those 2 brick houses are, you're showing through there, but if you, over to the right, they used to have the mobile homes kind of in those pines there.
That's exactly
And they
right.
used to use the road that you see right before those pines coming, right there.
That's right.
That's the road they came out because,
That's right. And I think that's, once again, we're trying to
I-
straighten out a problem.
Clean
that was-
up things.
that's
Yeah.
right.
property owned by Progress Energy, so now
I got you,
that won't be used that way anymore.
I got you.
Mr. Thompson.
Okay, so we're going to need a motion to, I'm sorry.
I just was wondering do you know particularly what the NCDOT had issue with?
They didn't. We bring it to them to let them know they've already got accesses off of these roads right here for mail delivery, but they have an access for this home here, and believe it or not, there's another access drive right here.
So they have no issues?
That is
'Cause this
correct.
says
Right.
they have issues.
Oh, it does?
Yes, sir, that's why I was questioning the same thing she was, because it says they have issues.
What page is that?
On the bottom of 2,
Okay.
it says the NCDOT's been contacted and they have issues with the
That's probably-
Do they
request.
have issue? Well,
Typo.
you're exactly
Okay.
right. That is a typo.
So they do not have
So
issues.
they do not have any issues with the applicant's request.
That's a good catch, because I was
Yes,
only
thank you.
listening to you verbally, and I didn't catch that.
That's correct.
So
And
pretty
again,
much they want to divide this up, and I don't see a problem with it.
well, like I said, it's imperative that we
Yeah.
go through DOT to make sure they don't,
Right.
but we have that in an email form, so we're
Okay,
good.
so we'll need a motion for each one individually, and then that motion will need to be that, if the board so chooses, to make the motion to approve these based upon it meeting the criteria as required by statute for for hardship and so forth that Mr. Talton spelled out, and as well as the fact that it's in harmony with the city's requirements. So that would be the motion that you would be making, and I won't have to repeat it each time. Is that good enough for you, Debbie? Okay. All right, on your mark, get set, go. All right, we will take a motion on lot number 1.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
A second.
Ms. Barnett makes a motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Slater for lot 1. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries. Lot 2.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Reed makes a motion to approve as presented for Lot 2. That's seconded by Mr. Waters. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And motion carries. Lot 3.
I make a motion, we approve the lot 3
Okay.
as
A second.
presented.
All right. Mr. Waters makes a motion to approve Lot 3, seconded by Mr. Slater. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries. And finally, Lot 4.
Actually, Chairman, Lot 4 will not be a part of this request.
Because it already met the
It already
criteria.
met the zoning
Okay.
requirement. Yes, sir.
Okay, it was just simply shown as part of the plat.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, well, that concludes that matter for item 2 on the agenda for Board of Adjustment, and we will move on to item 3 again, which will be presented by Mr. Talton.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this property is located on the north side of East Ash Street between North Oak Forest Road and Piedmont Airline Road. The property is located in the R16 Residential Zoning District and has 0 frontage along an improved public street. The property contains just over 7 acres. Currently, 1 single-family dwelling occupies the property. Applicant is requesting a variance of the city subdivision ordinance requirement that all lots have frontage on an improved public street of at least 50 feet. If approved, the applicant proposes to subdivide the property into 2 private lots for single-family use. The applicant has submitted a proposed preliminary plat which cannot be approved without the specified variances approved by the Board of Adjustment. Following variances are requested by the applicant: that the lot shall have frontage along an improved public street of at least 50 feet. Let me just show you real quickly here. If you'll follow my pen pointer here, this is the property in question drawn, highlighted by the black pen. And the proposed lot that is applicant would like to carve out as part of the subdivision is right here for the placement of 1 modular home. As you can see here, here is East Ash Street extension. And of course, the only way to access this lot at this time is a 20-foot easement, an existing easement that provides access to this whole lot. So again, the applicant is requesting to increase the easement by the city requirement of no less than 30 feet in width to the subject lot here, Lot 1, for the placement of the modular home. Ms. Mazingo has always been, her family's has had horses on this property for quite some time. You'll see some existing barns here. And I believe this is where Ms. Mazingo's mother lived at this point in time. So the subject property is not located within the city of Goldsboro. The property existed prior to the adoption of the city's Unified Development Code. An existing access easement, approximately 20 feet in width, provides access to the property. City water and sewer are available to serve the property. The property is not located within a special flood hazard area, and as you see, there are the current setbacks for the property. Moving on to page 2, there is an existing home on the residential tract adjacent to Lot 1 and address is 3763 East Ash Street. Should the Board of Adjustment approve the variance, the applicant will be required to increase the existing access easement to 30 feet in width, and she will be required to annex the lot into the city of Goldsboro city limits since city utilities are located within 1,000 feet of the subject property. Variances are stipulated in North Carolina general statutes. I will not read through that again unless somebody would like for me to do so. Moving on to the city's findings of fact. City of Goldsboro makes the following findings of fact as it relates to the variance. So according to our ordinances, lots shall have frontage along an improved public street of at least 50 feet. Addressing the first qualification for a variance, unnecessary hardship will result from strict application of the ordinance. Our finding is that the subject property existed prior to the adoption of the city's Unified Development Code. 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. The existing non-conforming lot is not located on an improved public street and is currently accessed only by an existing 20-foot in width paved access easement. Number 3, the hardship does not result from actions taken by the property owner. Finding the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. Chairman, that is the end of this presentation. Are there any questions before we move on to the Board of Adjustment conclusion?
I'm good with this. I don't see
Pretty
a issue
cut
with it
dry.
at all. I'm very familiar with the property and the family there, and simply just a family division to be able to continue to use
Yeah.
the family compound, for lack of a better term.
That's
I
it.
think it'll be fun.
We are in the process, just as a side note, updating our land use ordinance. There's some areas that are going to require additional investigation and updating after this particular, in order to comply with 160D. But some of our ordinances are somewhat are not up to date, and I think this is one of those areas that you are seeing now that in the county, if you develop a piece of property off the road, you can develop up to 3 lots without having to put a street or a road through there in accordance to city standards. This is one of those areas, again, like Chairman spoke of, that it's been in the family for years. It's always been accessed with this 20-foot easement, and this is all that she has in order to build her own home on the property. So we feel like that would be appropriate. Any other questions?
If not, we'll take a motion on this item, the same premise of what we just covered with the other ones, that your motion would be if you make a motion to approve, it would be based upon the request being in harmony with the city's rules and regulations, and also that it meets the requirements that are set forth by statute in order to move forward appropriately for an approval of an item such as this. So if you make a motion to approve, that will be your motion.
I make a motion that we approve all the findings.
Okay?
I second.
All right, Mr. Waters makes a motion that we approve item A2-21, and that's seconded by Mr. Slater. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries, and that item is approved. That concludes the business of the Goldsboro Board of Adjustment at this time, and for the remainder of the agenda, we will be resuming our duties as the Goldsboro Planning Commission and acting as such.
Very well. Thank you, Chairman. We're going to proceed forward. Our first variance request did not require going before the board for approval of their subdivision plat. However, the second one, the Benjamin Mazingo Estate, did require us to go before the Board of Adjustment. And if you'll give me just 1 second, I'm looking for that agenda memo real quick. Chairman, let's see. I need to retrieve an agenda memo for S-221, the estate of Benjamin Mazingo. We do not have it in your packet. It shouldn't take me but just a minute to retrieve that.
And that's where we will actually approve the subdivision request now that the requirements have been met for the variance for
Yes,
the
sir.
Board of Adjustment. I don't, personally, I mean, we're all familiar with that. If it's okay with you, we could go ahead and I don't need any further information in order to feel satisfied that I can make a recommendation, and if the board feels as such. Is that,
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Is that procedurally okay?
Well, I tell you what, it won't take us just but a second. Ms. Creighton's going to retrieve it.
Okay.
And what we'll do is, I'll just read that to you. It'll just basically, again, go over what we've said. We know that the property being subdivided to one of two lots, one of which is going to be for the placement of a modular home.
Well, I tried.
Yeah. Needing the North Carolina State Building Code. Again, water and sewer are available to serve the property and will need to be annexed. Is not a part of a flood zone. Are there any other questions of that subdivision? When Ms. Debbie returns, if there's anything else, I'll let you know before we go to our approval.
Okay.
And this is in the city.
This is not in the city, but it's within 1,000 feet of city water and sewer, which are located right along Nash Street here.
Okay.
And because of that, that requirement requires anybody that is within 1,000 feet must hook onto our system. She is proposing a force pump from where the home will be here, and it will come right along the edge of the easement and connect to city sewer. So that will be good for her.
Yeah, so the new lot will actually be city property, and the
Right.
remainder of the property will stay
remain.
county.
That is correct. So the new lot will be part of city of Goldsboro, and the remaining will not be. So, that being said, any other questions of that particular subdivision? Again, I think you're gonna be fine with that, but just for the record, let's make sure everything's good to go.
While
Chair?
we're in pause mode, I guess just for the sake of making sure procedurally correct, I know that those two items that we heard for Board of Adjustment were supposed to be public hearing items, but I didn't call for a public hearing because there's no one in attendance but us, so I didn't need to, that was okay, wasn't it? I actually didn't see that written until now.
Especially since they're
so
approved.
That's why I was asking. At least if we acknowledge it, so, from a procedural standpoint.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did acknowledge that.
Okay.
So for the record, Debbie, so far as the public hearing was concerned, the public hearings weren't held for either one of those cases. Obviously, there was no one to speak for or against it.
If the attorney was here, I would ask him, but just to be sure, we didn't need to open and close them, but there's no one here in attendance to speak anyhow. So I feel like the fact that we acknowledged that there was a public hearing and there's no one here is good enough, if that's okay with you guys. Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Creighton. Again, speaking of the two-lot preliminary subdivision plat, I'm just going to go through that. According to the city's UDO, all lots shall have frontage along an improved public or private street of no less than 50 feet. The applicants received a variance for this requirement from the Goldsboro Board of Adjustment and has agreed to increase the existing access easement from 20 to 30 feet. We talked about, this is one important, let's see, piece. The subject property is located within Seymour Johnson Air Force Base's noise overlay zone, 65 to 69. Base officials were contacted and will require that noise attenuation measures be incorporated into the construction of the new home to achieve an outdoor to indoor noise level reduction of at least 25 decibels. So the applicant is aware of that. She knows that when she orders the home that it will have to be constructed a little bit tighter because of it is located in that noise overlay zone of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. So if she incorporates those design features, it will hopefully minimize the sound that could be coming into the home from the jets.
Yeah, and if memory serves me correct, I believe the only thing that you have to do to achieve that is have vinyl windows or storm windows on the house. It's pretty simple to hit that requirement. So, yeah, I'm sure that will not be an issue, particularly if staff's going to check over that again.
That's exactly right. A lot of times, just depending on how close you are to that base, it may be an increase in thickness of the roof covering, it may be thickness of wall thicknesses from 2x4 to 2x6, or even in insulation. So she is made aware of that and knows of those requirements if and when the time comes.
Okay.
Any questions of this subdivision request? If not, Chairman, I defer to you.
All right, we'll take a motion on this item.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Barnett makes a motion to approve item S221 as presented by staff. That's seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries and the item is approved.
Very well, and last but not least, tonight we'll discuss a conditional use permit for Mr. Anthony Mathis for a window tinting operation at 4245 East US Highway 70. This applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to amend an existing conditional use permit for the installation of a prefabricated accessory structure used for the operation and expansion of an existing automotive service center located in the Airport Business Zoning District. Services include automobile window tinting, automobile inspections, and tire sales. As part of the request, separate site plan approval is also required. It's just over an acre in the Airport Business Zoning District and the overlay of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. In 2009, City Council approved the conditional use permit as well as site and landscape plans to allow an automobile window tinting operation upon the subject property. A modification of the protected street yard from 8 feet to 2.5 feet was also approved. As a condition of the permit issuance, City Council required the extension of a vehicular surface buffer across the easternmost driveway, which was required to be closed by NCDOT, limiting access to the property from 2 driveways to one along East US 70 Highway. I don't know how familiar you are with the property, but at one time, it had 2 access points. And when this operation was originally approved, City Council coattailed the decision of NCDOT and said, hey, look, we need you to close one of those 2 driveways. So they did so and extended their landscaping buffer yard, the vehicular surface area, all the way down the line. So I'll give you another picture of that, as you see here. And so here that driveway was at one time, and now it was closed off. So this is the only driveway access off of 70 East you have. So the submitted site plan indicates 2 existing buildings for use and 1 900 square foot for automobile tinting and inspections totaling approximately 1,500 square feet. The applicant is proposing an additional 930 prefabricated and enclosed metal building to serve as an additional bay for automobile window tinting. That space is to be right here. Currently, I believe there's an unenclosed shelter he would like to close, have a prefabricated metal building enclosed here for window tinting operations. Number of employees, 2. Hours of operations, 9 to 6. Again, existing driveway, 35-foot wide, already provides access off of Highway 70. Total of 16 parking spaces have been provided to include one handicap parking space. There are no additional landscape requirements. The base officials were contacted, and right now, currently, Mr. Mathis was retailing or displaying used tires and new tires here, and he's storing them behind this building here. One thing we're trying to correct is, in this request, is that he cannot locate within the 80 to 85 noise zone of Seymour Johnson, and so he will have to move the tires to this side of the lot. And if he chooses to enclose them, again, it's something that would need to be screened from public view. But he will have to relocate the tires over here and keep them out of that noise overlay district of 80 to 85. So in order to continue that retail sales upon the lot. City water and sewer are available to serve the property. Property is not located in a flood hazard area. Are there any questions regarding this request?
I don't have any, Chairman. I'm sorry, Director. Is there any comments or questions of staff? If not, we'll take a motion on this item.
Take a motion approved.
Okay?
Second it.
All right, Mr. Reed makes a motion to approve item CU1-21 as presented by staff. That's seconded by Mr. Slater. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Just to let you know what's coming down the pipe for our March meetings, we have a couple of zoning, actually 3 zoning requests. One called Shannon View, located on the west side of New Hope Road between Kyler Best and North Harding Drive for 84 senior apartments. We have another zoning request at, located on the west side of Thoroughfare Road between Central Heights Road and the NC Railroad. So I think it was in 19 that, I am hearing a phone ringing. Is someone?
I believe it's yours.
Is it my phone?
I was
Mine is-
hoping you would say
mine's
that so I could
vibrating
say
too, so I
that.
don't know. It was mine.
Not
Okay.
mine.
It had to be mine. It was vibrating. You got good ears.
Well, it was vibrating and humming all the tables and it was,
It was on
Wasn't
the
that
mic.
nice?
I think he's one reason to blame him.
Okay.
carry on, sir.
He need a little comic relief every once in a while. So Tiffany Garden right there, 19, the council approved an 84-unit multifamily dwelling at off of Central Heights Road and Thoroughfare. Now we have a request to rezone an adjacent parcel. They're calling it Tiffany Garden Phase 2 for another 84-unit apartment complex. Here, our next zoning request, C321 Barnes Jewelers Building. If everybody's familiar with Barnes Jewelers, located right there off of Mall Road, which is a private road, and Eastgate Drive. At this point in time, we do have an application for conditional use permit for the operation of an internet cafe within that complex of that strip center. But the property is not correctly zoned for it. It is zoned currently as shopping center. And in order to, for the use to even be considered, it has to be rezoned to general business. And if it were to receive zoning approval, then this board, as well as the council, will have to take up the conditional use at that time for an internet cafe.
Well,
So that's
even
the
if the zoning was approved, that an internet cafe wouldn't be compatible with UDO there at that location based upon the existing requirements, correct?
Well, right now, with the existing requirements, with the investigation that's been done so far, it does look like it meets the requirements for spatial requirements, distance requirements. But again, the zone has to be changed for it
Right.
in order for that to be compatible, because they're only allowed in general business. But with everything else involved in that investigation, it very well could meet the other standards required by the city.
Interesting.
So,
Do you know how many internet cafes we have in the city now?
That's what I was wondering.
I'm sorry, Bishop, what was the question again?
How many of those internet cafes do we have in the city limits, roughly?
Can you, rough idea, Ms.
On
Creighton?
record, I have 11, but during this investigation, it's been found 6 of those are no longer in operation.
We'll have to provide a report when that time comes, and we'll let you know at that time.
I'm just
how
curious
many-
on that, you know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because the UDO's been changed several times along the way because our council, I guess, has no appetite for, and I think that would be appropriately.
I always
For,
thought
you know-
that an internet cafe should be, I've always thought they were out of the city, not,
Yeah.
in
Well,
the city.
the council's taken steps several times in the past to address that issue through the UDO. I think that would be a way to properly articulate it, to say that the council as a whole doesn't have an appetite for internet cafes within the city limits. That's one of the reasons I was surprised that it would meet the requirement outside of zoning. I would have assumed, one, I know that it would not have met spatial requirements and so forth.
That's right.
That's
That's
interesting.
exactly right. Exactly right. Moving on to other cases that are associated with those cases. Once again, the conditional use permit would be required for that cafe if subject to rezoning. So, moving on to CU 321, conditional use permit is required for any multifamily dwelling within that zoning district, which is residential at this time. Shannon View, same way. A conditional use permit is required for an apartment complex within the residential zoning district. And again, let me back up. CU 321 was already that zone, that property, multifamily dwellings are permitted use by right. However, it still requires a conditional use permit for that location. And lastly, Tiffany Gardens, that is a rezoning request, conditional use. And since the zone is being changed, it is also required to have a conditional use permit for that 84-unit apartment complex. So it looks like it's shaping up to be a busy month for the month of March. And we still have projects in the wind that are coming our way, so
Excellent.
it's good.
It's good to hear. Yes, sir. All right, if that's no further business, we're adjourned.
Thank you, sir.